The night Chiamaka Okafor realized her marriage might be a lie, the house was silent, the air smelled of unfamiliar cologne, and her husband smiled like a man with nothing to hide. If you're new to this channel, just subscribe now, and say it in the comment section. For 7 years, their love had been the envy of Lekki Phase 1. Chiamaka Okafor was the kind of husband other women praised in whispers and loud declarations. He opened car doors. He quoted scripture at family dinners. He remembered anniversaries without reminders. On social media, he posted long captions about God's greatest gift and tagged Chiamaka with heart emojis that drew hundreds of admiring comments. "See your husband," Amora would tease. "Igbo men like this are scarce." Chiamaka would blush, her dark eyes glowing with quiet pride. She had married young, soft-spoken, raised to believe that patience was a woman's crown. And Chiamaka had seemed like a reward for that patience. He prayed with her every morning before work. They held hands at church. He insisted she didn't need to rush back into full-time work after their wedding. "Build our home first," he would say gently. "I will build the rest." And he did. Within 5 years, Chiamaka's logistics company expanded across Lagos and Abuja. Contracts multiplied. Money flowed. Their white duplex stood proudly behind black gates, trimmed hedges framing the compound like something from a luxury magazine. His mother, Mama Okafor, called him her golden son. "My Chiamaka cannot disgrace me," she often boasted. "I raised him well." Chiamaka believed that too. Until small things began to shift. It started with the late nights. At first, they were understandable. Business was growing. Competition was fierce. Chiamaka would kiss her forehead around 6 p.m. and say, "Don't wait up, my love." She waited anyway. Midnight became normal. Then 1 a.m. Some nights, he slept in the guest room, claiming exhaustion. "You know Lagos traffic and stress," he would murmur. "I don't want to disturb you." She accepted it. Then came the password. For years, Chiamaka's phone had been open to her. They laughed over memes together. She answered calls when he was in the shower. Suddenly, the screen went dark whenever she approached. One evening, she reached for it playfully. He said quickly, forcing a smile. "Company policy. Sensitive documents." She withdrew her hand slowly. "Since when?" He kissed her cheek. "Since growth." Another week passed. She noticed a new scent clinging to his shirts. Not her perfume. Not his usual cologne. Something softer. Floral. Intimate. "Did you change deodorant?" she asked lightly while folding laundry. He didn't look up from his laptop. Maybe one of the guys sprayed something in the office. The answer felt rehearsed. At church one Sunday, while Chiamaka stood at the altar giving thanks for a successful quarter, Chiamaka felt something twist inside her. He looked sincere. Hands lifted. Eyes closed. The congregation admired him. "God has blessed me with a virtuous wife," he declared into the microphone. Applause followed. She smiled because that was expected. Later that afternoon, his phone buzzed repeatedly during lunch. He stepped away to answer it. From the dining area, she heard a tone she hadn't heard in months. Light. Playful. Almost boyish. "Calm down," he laughed softly. "I told you I will handle it." When he returned, he cleared his throat. "Office issue." That night, Chiamaka lay awake staring at the ceiling fan spinning shadows across the room. Her heart did not accuse him loudly. It whispered, "Something is wrong." The next morning, she visited his office unexpectedly with homemade jollof rice. The receptionist smiled nervously. "Oga is in a meeting," she said. "With whom?" She hesitated. "His PA." Chiamaka nodded slowly. She had met Dosin Balagan only twice. Tall. Polished. Efficient. Always respectful. When Chiamaka finally emerged, he looked startled. Chiamaka? You should have called. I wanted to surprise you. His eyes flicked briefly toward his office door before returning to her. You didn't have to stress yourself. Inside, Dossing gathered files quickly, avoiding prolonged eye contact. Good afternoon, Ma, she said politely. Chiamaka smiled. Good afternoon. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing obvious. And yet the air felt heavy. That evening, Chiamaka was unusually attentive. He ordered her favorite meal. He complimented her hair. He held her longer in bed, though his mind seemed elsewhere. Guilt had a scent too, she realized. Days blended into restless nights. Chiamaka's Abuja trips increased. His explanations became detailed, almost overly so. We're negotiating a new port contract, he said one Thursday while packing. Investors are sensitive. She nodded, folding his cufflinks into place. Safe trip. He cupped her face tenderly. You doubt me? Her breath caught. No. He searched her eyes, then smiled in triumph. The following Sunday, as the choir sang and incense drifted through the church hall, a woman touched Chiamaka's elbow gently. It was Kimi from Chiamaka's accounts department. Can I speak to you? She whispered. They stepped outside near the parking lot. Kimi's face was tight with discomfort. Madam, forgive me, she began carefully. I have debated this for weeks. Chiamaka's stomach tightened. What is it? Kimi swallowed. People are talking in the office. About Oga and Dosin. The world did not shatter. It simply narrowed. Sounds became distant. Even the traffic beyond the gate seemed muffled. Talking how? Chiamaka asked steadily. Late meetings. Private trips. The way she enters his office and locks the door. Staff are uncomfortable. Chiamaka forced a composed expression. Office gossip is dangerous. I know, Kimi said quickly. But I have seen things. I respect you too much to stay silent. Chiamaka felt heat crawl up her spine. Seen what? Kimi lowered her voice further. If you truly want to know where your husband stays till midnight, come to the office tomorrow. 7 p.m. The words landed like a stone dropped into still water. Chiamaka did not cry. Not there. She thanked Kimi calmly and returned inside. Chiamaka was laughing with Uche near the front pew, charismatic as ever. On the drive home, he reached for her hand. You're quiet. Just tired. He squeezed gently. I'm doing all this for us. That night, Chiamaka stood before the mirror in their bedroom. She studied her reflection as if searching for cracks. She saw loyalty. She saw years of devotion. She saw a woman who had trusted completely. Behind her, Chiamaka slept peacefully. She walked to the wardrobe and touched his suits, each tailored and expensive. The scent of that unfamiliar perfume lingered faintly on one collar. Her heart pounded, but her face remained composed. For 7 years, she had been the supportive wife. The understanding partner. The silent strength behind a celebrated man. Tomorrow at 7, she would choose to be something else. And for the first time in their marriage, Chiamaka Okafor decided she would not ask for the truth. She would witness it. Chiamaka did not sleep. She lay beside her husband listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing, wondering how someone could rest so peacefully while standing on shifting sand. At 5 a.m. When his alarm rang for morning devotion, she was already awake, already composed. Chiamaka stretched and smiled at her. You're up early. I couldn't sleep much, she replied softly. He brushed it off. Too much Netflix, he joked, pulling her closer before leading a short prayer. His voice was warm, convincing, threaded with scripture and gratitude. If guilt existed, it did not tremble in his tone. When he left for work, kissing her forehead as usual, she stood at the gate watching his car disappear. The security man greeted her respectfully. "Madam, good morning." "Good morning," she answered absently. Inside, she moved through the house like someone preparing for battle but refusing to show armor. She cleaned. She arranged flowers. She called the cake vendor by noon. "Chocolate fudge, elegant design," she instructed. "Write a happy birthday, my love." The irony did not make her flinch. At 2 p.m., she called Uche. "Please, can you come to Victoria Island this evening?" "For what?" he asked casually. "I want to surprise your brother at the office. Birthday celebration." Uche chuckled. "That man will faint from joy. Will you come?" "Of course." Next was Amora. "Wear something decent," Chiamaka said calmly. Amora paused. "Why do I feel like this isn't just about cake?" "Just come." Finally, she called Mama Okafor. "Your son works too hard," Chiamaka explained gently. "Let's appreciate him." Mama Okafor laughed proudly. "That is my hard-working son. I will come." By 6:30 p.m., the sun dipped behind Lagos skyscrapers, painting Victoria Island in golden shadow. Chiamaka stood outside the sleek glass office building holding the white cake box carefully. Amora stood beside her, eyes observant. Uche leaned against his car, restless. Mama Okafor adjusted her wrapper impatiently. "You didn't tell him, Abi?" Uche asked. "No," Chiamaka answered. "It's a surprise." They entered the lobby together. The security guard looked uneasy. "Madam, good evening." "Good evening," she replied politely. "We're here for Mr. Okafor." The guard shifted. "Oga say make nobody disturb him tonight." Mama Okafor stepped forward sharply. "Move. That is my son." The guard swallowed and stepped aside. They rode the elevator in tense silence. Amora glanced at Chiamaka. "You're too calm." "I have no reason not to be," she replied evenly. The hallway outside Emeka's private office was dimly lit. Most staff had gone home. A faint glow seeped beneath his door. They approached quietly. Laughter floated through the crack in the door. A woman's laughter. Soft. Comfortable. Intimate. Uche frowned. "Who is that?" Chiamaka felt her pulse in her ears. She set the cake carefully on a nearby table. "Maybe Dosin is still working," Amora whispered. Mama Okafor scoffed. "At this hour?" The door was not fully locked. It rested slightly ajar. Amora pushed it slowly. The scene inside unfolded in one frozen, merciless frame. Emeka sat on the leather couch, his tie loosened, shirt partially unbuttoned. Dosin Balogun was seated on his lap, her manicured hands resting on his shoulders. Her heels lay discarded near the desk. Papers were scattered carelessly across the table. For a second, no one breathed. Then the cake box slipped from Chiamaka's hand. It hit the floor with a dull thud, frosting splattering across the tiles. Emeka's head snapped up. His face drained of color. "Chiamaka!" Dosin jumped to her feet, smoothing her skirt frantically. "What is this?" Uche shouted. "It's not what you think," Emeka rushed to say. Mama Okafor's voice thundered across the room. "On top office couch." Amora moved to block the doorway as Dosin grabbed her handbag in panic. "Excuse me," Dosin muttered, trying to slip past. "Where are you going?" Amora shot back, arms folded. Emeka ran a hand through his hair. "Everyone calm down. This is a misunderstanding." Chiamaka finally spoke. Her voice was low but steady. "Explain it." Dosin's eyes flashed defensively. "Ask your husband who chased me first." The room erupted. Shut up! Chiamaka barked. Don't shout at her. Uche lunged forward, grabbing his brother's shirt. Is this why you stay out till midnight? Chiamaka pushed him away. This is between me and my wife. Mama Okafor staggered backward, holding her chest. Chiamaka, tell me this is not true. Deceit crossed her arms, tears welling. He told me the marriage was dead. Chiamaka's gaze remained locked on her husband. Is it? Chiamaka's mouth opened and closed. For the first time in 7 years, he looked small. No, he said weakly. Then what is this? Silence stretched painfully. Uche paced the room. 8 months people have been talking. I defended you. Chiamaka shot him a look. Keep quiet. Chiamaka felt something inside her settle, not break, not shatter, settle. As if the whisper that had haunted her heart finally had a voice. She turned to Deceit. How long? Deceit hesitated, glancing at Chiamaka. Answer her, Amora demanded. Deceit swallowed. 8 months. Mama Okafor gasped. Jesus! 8 months. While anniversary plans were being made. While prayers for a child filled their bedroom. Chiamaka sank into the chair. It started as nothing, he muttered. Stress. Pressure. I made a mistake. A mistake. Deceit snapped. You promise me. The weight of betrayal hung heavy in the air. Outside, traffic continued, indifferent to the implosion inside that office. Chiamaka did not cry. She did not scream. She simply watched the man she married unravel before her eyes. And in that moment, the surprise was no longer about cake or celebration. It was about revelation. The office smelled of spilled frosting and betrayal. For a long second after Deceit's confession, no one moved. The hum of the air conditioner sounded unnaturally loud, like a machine trying to cool a fire already out of control. 8 months. The number circled Chiamaka's mind like a vulture. Chiamaka stood up slowly, adjusting his unbuttoned shirt as if neatness could restore dignity. Everybody should calm down, he said, his voice strained. Let's handle this maturely. Maturely? Uche exploded. You are on top of your PA in your office and you're talking about maturity. Lower your voice. Chiamaka barked. No. Uche shoved him. You disgraced us. Mama Okafor sank into a chair, fanning herself rapidly. Chiamaka, you? After everything? Deceit wiped at her eyes angrily. Why is everybody blaming only me? He is the married one. Chiamaka finally stepped forward. She felt detached from her body, like she was watching strangers perform a tragic stage play. Stop shouting, she said quietly. The authority in her tone silenced them more effectively than screaming could have. She looked at her husband. Tell the truth. All of it. Chiamaka avoided her eyes. It's not serious. Not serious. Deceit let out a bitter laugh. You spent nights in my apartment. Mama Okafor gasped again. Apartment. Chiamaka's fingers curled into her palm, nails biting into skin. Still, her voice remained steady. How long have you been sleeping with her? Chiamaka's silence answered first. 8 months, Deceit repeated, her chin lifting slightly, as though daring anyone to challenge her. Since the Port Harcourt trip. Chiamaka remembered that trip. She had packed his suitcase herself. Slipped a handwritten prayer note into the pocket of his blazer. He had sent her selfies from the airport lounge. You told me the hotel Wi-Fi was bad, she said faintly. It was business, he insisted weakly. Business on your lap? Uche snapped. Enough. Chiamaka roared, finally losing composure. Yes. I made a mistake. Are you happy now? No, Chiamaka replied. I am enlightened. The word cut deeper than anger. Dawson shifted uncomfortably. He told me you two were just living like roommates. That there was no love. Chiamaka turned slowly toward her. Did you ask why he still wore his wedding ring? Dawson's mouth opened, then closed. Emeka ran his hand over his face. I was confused. You were greedy, Uche corrected. Mama Okafor stood up shakily. Emeka, look at your wife. Look at her. He did. For the first time since they entered, he truly looked at Chiamaka. Not as the steady figure waiting at home. Not as the supportive shadow in photographs. But as a woman standing in front of his consequences. Her eyes were not wet. They were clear. You prayed with me every morning, she said. Was that confusion too? Emeka swallowed. Chiamaka. You thanked God for me publicly. He said nothing. You posted about loyalty. Dawson looked between them, uncomfortable now, less defiant. The cake lay destroyed on the floor, pink icing smeared like something violently erased. Amora folded her arms. You lied to everyone. Even your mother. Mama Okafor shook her head slowly. I defended you. I said my son cannot disgrace me. Her voice cracked. You made me a liar. Emeka's shoulders slumped. For a brief second, guilt flickered across his face. But it was quickly replaced by something else, self-preservation. This doesn't have to end everything, he said carefully. We can fix it. Dawson stared at him. Fix what? My marriage, he answered without hesitation. The room shifted again. Dawson's expression hardened. Excuse me. Chiamaka felt the sting of irony. So I am the one to fix? No, Emeka rushed. I mean we can go to counseling. We can pray. Dawson let out a sharp laugh. You promised me you were filing for divorce. Mama Okafor's head snapped up. Divorce? Uche turned to his brother slowly. You told her that. Emeka's jaw tightened. It was talk. It was plans, Dawson corrected angrily. You showed me documents. Chiamaka's breath caught, but she refused to crumble. Documents. Dawson nodded, tears slipping down now. He said after the next contract closes, he would make it official. Emeka's voice rose defensively. You're exaggerating. Am I? Dawson shot back. Should I open my phone? Silence. The power dynamic shifted again, and this time Emeka looked cornered. Chiamaka felt something unexpected, clarity. The fog of suspicion that had clouded her for weeks dissolved completely. What remained was not rage. It was understanding. You didn't trip, she said softly. You built this. Emeka's eyes pleaded now. Chiamaka, please. For 8 months, you chose her every time you lied. Dawson's voice trembled. He said he loved me. Chiamaka looked at her with calm detachment. He said he loved me too. That sentence landed like a verdict. Mama Okafor covered her face. God, what is this shame? Uche stepped back, running a hand through his hair. Brother, you have destroyed something good. Emeka looked around desperately, as if searching for support that no longer existed. This is private, he muttered weakly. No, Chiamaka replied. It stopped being private when you involved another woman. Her composure unsettled him more than screaming would have. Dawson's earlier boldness had faded. I didn't plan this, she said quietly. He pursued me. And you followed, Chiamaka responded without hostility. The truth hung bare now. No more pretense. No more polished social media captions. Just consequences standing in fluorescent light. Emeka finally sank back onto the couch, the same couch where minutes ago he had been laughing intimately. The symbolism was not lost on anyone. I was under pressure, he muttered. Expansion. Investors. I needed escape. So you escaped into adultery? Amara asked coldly. Chiamaka inhaled slowly. You could have spoken to me. He looked up. Would you have understood? Yes, she answered. Because I was your wife. That simple statement echoed louder than all the shouting before it. Deceit picked up her handbag again, but this time no one stopped her. She hesitated at the door, glancing back at Chiamaka. He didn't look at her. For the first time since they walked in, the office felt still, not chaotic, not explosive, just exposed. Chiamaka bent down slowly and picked up the ruined cake box. She closed it carefully despite the mess inside. It was chocolate, she said quietly. Your favorite. Chiamaka's face crumpled slightly. But regret, she realized, often comes too late to negotiate damage. The air inside the office had changed. The shouting had burned itself out, leaving behind something heavier than noise, truth. Raw, unfiltered, humiliating truth. Deceit's hand rested on the door handle, but she didn't leave. Her breathing was uneven now, less defensive, more desperate. You're acting like I trapped him, she said quietly, her voice trembling. He came after me. Chiamaka closed his eyes briefly. Deceit, stop. No, she snapped, turning fully back into the room. You don't get to silence me now. Chiamaka stood still, cake box in her hands, watching. Deceit's composure cracked. He said he was lonely. That you were distant. That you cared more about church than him. Chiamaka Okafor gasped. What nonsense. Chiamaka did not react outwardly, but something inside her tightened. She remembered the night she had asked if he was tired. The morning she had waited for him to come back to bed. The weekends he claimed to be at strategy meetings. Did I look distant when I packed your bags? She asked calmly, eyes fixed on Chiamaka. He couldn't answer. Deceit wiped her tears angrily. He said he needed someone who understood his ambition. Someone who didn't question him. Uche laughed bitterly. So you wanted a fan, not a wife. Chiamaka's voice rose again, fragile and defensive. It wasn't supposed to get serious. Deceit's eyes widened in disbelief. Not serious. Her voice shook now, but she stood her ground. You met my parents. Chiamaka Okafor straightened sharply. Parents? Chiamaka's face went pale. It was just introduction. You told them you were separated. Deceit shot back. The room shifted again. Chiamaka felt a wave pass through her, not shock, not even pain. Just confirmation. The kind that seals a chapter whether you are ready or not. You lied to her family too, she said quietly. Chiamaka looked cornered, sweat forming along his hairline. I was trying to manage everything. Manage? Uche repeated incredulously. You're not running a contract. This is people's lives. Deceit's shoulders began to shake. You promised me stability. You said once the Abuja deal closes, you would make everything official. Chiamaka's head tilted slightly. The Abuja conference. Deceit nodded slowly. He wasn't alone there. Chiamaka snapped, enough. But the dam had broken. Deceit took a step forward, tears spilling freely now. I wouldn't have risked my job if I didn't believe you. Chiamaka studied her carefully. For the first time, she saw not a rival, but a woman who had also been sold a dream wrapped in lies. And what exactly did you believe? Chiamaka asked gently. Deceit swallowed hard. That he loved me. The word hung in the air like smoke. Chiamaka's silence confirmed more than denial ever could. Chiamaka Okafor shook her head slowly. Chiamaka, you have embarrassed me. He finally snapped under the weight. Yes. I was selfish. I liked the attention. I liked feeling admired. The honesty came out raw and ugly. Chiamaka felt the final piece click into place. This wasn't confusion. It wasn't stress. It was ego. You like being needed by two women, she said quietly. He didn't deny it. Dawson wiped her face and inhaled shakily. There's something else. Chiamaka looked at her sharply. Don't. Her eyes hardened. They deserve to know. The room stilled again. I'm pregnant. The words landed like a physical blow. Mama Okafor swayed and grabbed the edge of the desk. Jesus! Uche froze. Amora's hand flew to her mouth. Chiamaka's fingers tightened around the cake box, but her face remained still. Chiamaka stared at Dawson in disbelief. What? You heard me, she whispered. 6 weeks. That's not possible, he muttered. Dawson laughed bitterly. You think I'm lying? You said you were careful, he shot back. The cruelty of that sentence echoed through the room. Chiamaka inhaled slowly. 6 weeks. While she had been fasting and praying for a child of her own. While she had cried quietly after another negative test result. Mama Okafor's voice trembled. You brought a child into this mess. Dawson lifted her chin weakly. I didn't do it alone. Chiamaka paced now, running both hands through his hair. This is madness. No, Chiamaka said calmly. This is consequence. He stopped pacing and looked at her. Chiamaka, please. Don't make decisions in anger. I am not angry. And she wasn't. Not in the way he expected. There was no screaming storm behind her eyes. Only clarity. Dawson's tears kept falling. I thought I was building something real. You were, Chiamaka replied softly. Just not with a real man. Chiamaka flinched at that. Uche shook his head in disbelief. Brother, you have destroyed 2 homes before even having children. Mama Okafor suddenly let out a sharp cry and slumped into the chair fully, fanning herself rapidly. Water, she whispered. Amora rushed to her side. The office, once sleek and powerful, now felt suffocating. Chiamaka looked at Dawson again. You should have told me earlier. She stared at him in disbelief. You were busy hiding me. Silence followed. Chiamaka finally set the cake box down on the desk carefully. She straightened her blouse. Adjusted her ring slightly. 8 months, she said slowly. Lies. Manipulation. Promises to 2 women. Chiamaka's voice softened desperately. We can still fix this. Dawson stared at him. Fix what? You just said it wasn't serious. Chiamaka looked at him steadily. Who exactly are you planning to fix it with? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The answer was clear, he wanted to keep control, not love. Dawson's shoulders sagged. I feel stupid. You were deceived, Chiamaka replied calmly. But you also chose to ignore the signs. Dawson nodded faintly. Chiamaka's desperation grew. Chiamaka, you're my wife. The word sounded hollow now. And she is carrying your child, Chiamaka replied. The truth hung between all 3 of them like an irreversible contract. Mama Okafor's breathing steadied slightly. What kind of son did I raise? She murmured. No one answered. For the first time, Chiamaka looked truly afraid, not of being caught, but of losing control of the narrative he had crafted so carefully. And in that office filled with fluorescent light and shattered illusions, it became clear that the real damage was not just betrayal. It was exposure. No one spoke for a full minute. The office that once echoed with Chiamaka's confident voice now felt like a courtroom after the verdict had been read. Dawson stood near the door, mascara streaked, one hand resting unconsciously on her stomach. Uche stared at his brother as though seeing him for the first time. Mama Okafor sat slumped in the chair, fanning herself weakly, her pride visibly fractured. Amora remained by her side, steady but watchful. And in the center of it all stood Chiamaka, calm, upright, composed. Emeka took a cautious step toward her. Chiamaka, let's go home and talk. She looked at him as if measuring the weight of that word, home. Which one? His face tightened. Don't do this. I am not doing anything, she replied evenly. You already did it. Dosin let out a shaky breath. I didn't know he would deny me like this. Emeka snapped, nobody is denying you. You just tried to fix your marriage in front of me, Dosin shot back. What do you call that? Silence answered her. Chiamaka turned slowly to Dosin. There was no hatred in her eyes, only a quiet understanding that cut deeper than anger ever could. You said you believed him. Dosin nodded faintly. And he told you the marriage was dead? Yes. Chiamaka glanced at Emeka. Was it? No, he replied immediately. Dosin's face crumpled. So I was just, what? He had no answer that didn't expose him further. Chiamaka inhaled slowly and reached for her left hand. The gold wedding ring caught the fluorescent light. For 7 years, she had worn it with pride. It had symbolized covenant, partnership, prayer, shared dreams. Now it felt like borrowed metal. Emeka noticed the movement. Chiamaka. She slipped the ring off gently. No dramatic gesture. No shaking hands. Just a deliberate removal of something that no longer fit. You have already lost me, she said quietly. The simplicity of the sentence struck harder than any scream. Mama Okafor gasped softly. My daughter. Chiamaka placed the ring carefully on the desk beside the ruined cake box. And you, she continued, turning to Dosin, have gained him. Dosin blinked, stunned. I don't. You fought for him, Chiamaka said calmly. Keep fighting. Emeka stepped forward urgently. Stop speaking like this. We can still repair. Repair what? She asked, finally raising her voice slightly. Trust. He fell silent. For 8 months, you shared yourself with someone else while sharing prayers with me. Her voice didn't crack. That unsettled him more than tears would have. I made a mistake, he muttered weakly. No, she corrected gently. A mistake happens once. This was a lifestyle. Uche looked down, ashamed. Dosin's earlier confidence had dissolved completely. She looked at Emeka now with something new in her eyes, not love, not admiration, but doubt. You told me I was special, she whispered. Emeka ran a hand down his face, exhausted. You are. Chiamaka gave a faint, almost pitying smile. Is she? He didn't answer. That was the moment Dosin understood. Her voice trembled. You said there was no one else. Emeka's silence stretched too long. Dosin's eyes widened slowly. There's someone else. Don't start imagining things, he snapped defensively. But the damage had been done. 2 weeks later, Dosin would discover the truth herself, a woman in Abuja. Different apartment. Different promises. Same lies. But in this moment, the seed of suspicion had already been planted. Chiamaka picked up her handbag calmly. I will send someone for my things. Emeka stared at her as if she were speaking a foreign language. You're leaving? Yes. Just like that. She paused at the door and looked back at him. Just like you. The word settled heavily in the room. Mama Okafor struggled to her feet. Where will you go? Chiamaka's voice softened slightly. Somewhere peaceful. Uche moved aside to clear her path. His eyes were wet, but he didn't try to stop her. Amora followed closely behind. Emeka stood frozen, the reality finally sinking in, not because he had been caught, but because she was not begging. She was not screaming. She was not bargaining. She was done. And that terrified him. Chiamaka, he called after her. She didn't turn back. The elevator doors closed gently, separating her from the chaos upstairs. Her reflection in the mirrored wall looked steady. Not broken. Not hysterical. Just resolved. Amora squeezed her hand. You're strong. Chiamaka exhaled slowly. No. I'm tired. When they stepped outside, the Lagos night air felt different, cooler, clearer. Traffic lights blinked indifferently. Cars moved on. The world had not ended. Inside the office, Chiamaka sank into the chair behind his desk. His eyes moved from the ring to the smashed cake box. Chocolate frosting smeared against cardboard like something ruined beyond repair. Deceit stood awkwardly, suddenly unsure of her position. You're not going after her, she asked quietly. He didn't respond. Mama Okafor shook her head slowly. You thought you were clever? Uche's voice was low but firm. You lost everything tonight. Chiamaka stared at the ring. He had believed he could manage it all: wife, mistress, ambition, admiration. He had believed he was too smart to be exposed. Now the illusion was gone. 2 weeks later, Deceit would walk into an Abuja apartment unannounced and find proof that she had never been the only secret. Another woman. Another lie. Another promise recycled. By then, Chiamaka would already be gone from the house in Lekki. No dramatic departure. No public scandal. Just quiet paperwork and a new beginning. Chiamaka would try to call her. Messages unanswered. Apologies sent into silence. But some doors, once closed with dignity, do not reopen for regret. And the greatest surprise of all was not that he was caught. It was that the woman he underestimated walked away without looking back.